We are
Didi
and Armand, and in our daily lives we support people on the path of self-liberation. We teach time-tested energy skills like Qigong, Tai Chi, internal alchemy, traditional nutrition and meditation.
We help people release stagnation, build energy, and become aligned with themselves and their purpose in life.
In this podcast, we share the methods, skills, and solutions that helped us, our students, and now hopefully you move forward.
Let's explore transformation together.
We're looking at the 5 elements again through a case study. I'm the study today, I'm the case. So, But before we go into me, let's go through the 5 elements shortly so we introduce them for people who don't know about them.
Yeah. And so for people listening, we draw all the elements on the board. So I'll go through them. You have fire, earth, metal, water, and wood. These are the 5 elements according to traditional Chinese medicine.
So they're in a circle, right?
They're in a circle.
For people listening, they're in a big circle.
And they represent the circle of change. It's how a study of nature. And you see, I draw a lot of arrows. So you see that there is an arrow between fire and earth to metal, metal to water, water to wood, and wood to fire. This is the nurturing cycle. So fire nurtures earth.
Right.
I cannot pronounce that.
Yeah.
So when earth is a little bit weak, fire will give
support and nourish.
Give some of the energy to earth element and earth to metal and metal to water. And then you have the controlling cycle as well. So there is an arrow from earth to water,
which is sort of like an opposite, right? For people who are not watching, it's directly how they influence each other. Yeah.
And so if water by itself, it would just run away. And earth can kind of control the water.
Like a canal, something like that.
Yeah,
right?
When you see a canal, the earth will hold the water together. And like water controls fire. If fire gets too big, you have some water to kind of
tone it down.
Yeah. So this is the controlling cycle. And this can help this understanding because it's a holistic view. On how everything interacts with each other.
Everything interacts with everything.
Yeah. And if you know about these 2 cycles, you know you can intervene. You can, if you understand, you can kind of see, where are things off and how can I
balance it out or nourish it or tone it down or it's complete.
Yeah.
It's magic. Yeah.
And so it stands for everything in this earth. It's the seasons of life, it's processes, but you can definitely, and that's what we're doing today, look at a person because it also stands for the organs, the emotions, phases of life,
how we behave or not behave, or especially me.
So when I start with someone to look at a person, we go back in time.
Sure, let's go back like 10 years or something.
Yeah, because then we see the transformation through what you did, what kind of changes you made. But the first thing when we look at a person is what's calling most. So what's the most obvious at that time? What is bothering people?
Right. What's the major
problem.
disbalance?
And then we will go a little bit underneath that problem to see, where are the roots? But you see, it's like an onion. You kind of start with something and then you peel off this outer layer and then you get to the next.
It's like what's there. Yeah.
So 10 years ago, what was the most obvious? Where were you going? Kind of.
I think it was a yin deficiency, if you could say that, right? So there was a shortage of yin, which represented itself in no rest, no internal stillness, no. Yeah. I was very fiery, you could say. right? So fiery in the sense that I was always in my head. My emotions were all over the place. I had skin problems, right? I had a lot of skin problems because of that.
So your skin.
Yeah, if we put that in the next to the elements, the skin problems would be at metal element, because metal element represents like the lungs and
the outer layers.
Outer layers. So and then the skin is of course like the second lungs of the system, right? So I had this is maybe a nice story, right? I was already training. I had all these. I had a little bit of
rash.
Like a rash around my lips, around my mouth, and I also at the back of my head there was some
pretty red,
and
fiery.
So I was training one day. I came into the studio, and normally I would just come in. My teacher would be there already, but I would just go through my steps and everything, warm up. And he, with another student, my teacher, he was sort of like whispering to each other and pointing at me like, and I was like, "Come on, what is this about, right?" And they're like, "Come over here," and they're like, "Okay, you see, you've got these spots, and there's something on the back of your head, and we see these," and they were asking about what do you eat and what are you, are you eating a lot of sugar, spices, or wine, or whatever? And in the meantime, I already was seeing a doctor about this, right? I went to a doctor, and he sent me to a skin doctor, and the skin doctor gave me a sort of a cream, and this woman said, like, you have to do this for the rest of your life. When I asked, like, how long is the treatment, she said, no, for the rest of your life, you have to put that on, right? But my teacher said, okay, look at the diet, right?
Yeah.
So that was one of the first things that we got into this, where he loaned us a book about that and everything. But we started with leaving out sugar,
chocolate, tomatoes,
coffee, right? I got that out of my diet, and what happened? It disappeared.
Yeah,
it just disappeared. So on one hand, we have someone who's saying, "Okay, you have to do this for the rest of your life." She never asked what I ate.
No,
the doctor didn't as well, and then everything changed.
So what they do is, in order for you to keep your lifestyle, you need to add something else to kind of
suppress the what's
the
underneath,
outcome.
right? So you can continue with this lifestyle, but that was not the only thing, of course, because this diet was also supporting a lot of mental noise, a lot of emotions all over the place. So, and then we get to other elements, right?
Yeah,
because with this fiery thing,
you definitely had problems on earth element, like focus also.
So my digestion was.
But instead of, if people listen to the podcast that was about me, for me it was all kind of underwater, and for you that was like
completely the opposite. I was I was like, wow, I had outbursts of frustration. So the outbursts are more in the wood element, related to you could say, on one hand, I was a very creative guy, right?
Yeah.
So I was a musician as well. So that's also in the wood element. But it would also go to a lot of frustration and a feeling of, being stuck. And I needed room, right?
Yeah.
I needed some room for expression and movement. So definitely frustrations there.
Yeah. Sometimes outburst that was there. So you saw in your whole system a lot of fire, but almost not a nice warm, fuzzy, warm feeling, but this kind of explosive fire.
Absolutely.
False fire is
so what happens after that, right? You have this outburst, and after that's like you sort of crash, because it drains the energy completely. So I think that's why Tai Chi appealed to me in the first place. I never really read about it before I started it. I had some experience with it when I joined someone who was training it, teaching it, but I never knew about the energy. But I was already sort of going in that direction. It's like, okay, I have to restore something in myself, right? I need to look at myself now inside, because it's not on the outside. It's in me. So energy was the thing that became our main objective, right? It's like, how do we support this energy?
Because although you had you did have some energy, but it was mostly explosive energy, and then it was like gone.
Yeah.
And you had there was nothing underneath.
No.
And so if that explosive energy was gone, there was nothing left. And
It took days to, or sometimes weeks to get back into some sort of balance again, right? Yeah. If something happened or whatever. Yeah.
And what you also saw with your emotion, it was going up and down, going with that energy flow. So some days you were, you were on the moon, and then it would just drop.
Just crash again. Yeah. That was all the time, and that would, sometimes would take a couple of days. Sometimes it was like longer. You had a longer period where it was fine. Yeah. But then a longer period where it was not fine at all, right? So when we started with also with the earth element, getting in there and then looking at the diet, that made a huge change.
Yeah. So here there was more balance.
Absolutely.
And building up, that layer, yin energy to hold that yang energy, so you can build both.
Absolutely.
And, get a good foundation.
And I was thinking also, I'm lucky that I'm the kind of guy that if I choose to do something, I will really do it, right? Yeah. So I was like, okay, if this is really going to help me, let's do this. And in the meantime, of course, we got this book about these 5 elements, and you started studying that. Yeah. So my system, I got more energy. Yeah. I got more, but the thing was, I had no skill over this energy yet, right? Yeah. So some days I would feel like, whoa, it's really building, and then I'm there, but then something would happen and it would drop again. Yeah. Yeah. And my system warmed up, not in a fiery way, but in a comfortable, glowy way, right? So that supported the water element again, because there was a deficiency there as well. Yeah. But that's just a funny thing, because you also had the problem that you had to go to the toilet during nighttime. Yes. So there was also underneath coolness. And that's incredible when you think about it. You can have these two at the same time. I think it represented itself mostly in the fire, but also in the water element. Yeah. So but it's logical, because what you said, you had not a lot of yin, and actually not a lot of yang either. It was not in the middle, it was on the outside. So when you had energy, you had this explosive energy, and you were eating things, because you went to the how do you take out for Indonesian food almost weekly. Yeah, with a Coke. With yeah. So it's like so that was so fiery. Oh yeah. Yeah. But on the other hand, it was like a lot of sugar also. Right? Which is very cooling, and then the very hot stuff. So it was so on the extremes with everything I did, right? There was meat in everything. There would be lots of sugar. Yeah. So bringing that down. Yeah. Getting more into the middle. That would build up this stable energy layer. Become much more stable. Yeah. And so the coolness also disappeared, and it became more balanced. Absolutely. So I went more from neutral. like going from the Alps, right? Going to this beautiful, soft hills landscape in my life. And that was incredible, because now I had the chance to build up energy. And of course I learned how to do that also by going into Qigong deeper. So exploring constantly is where's the leaks, and then on the other hand is like, how do I gain it? And that was a huge change for sure. And interesting, because wood element, you're very creative. You've always you made music, you painted, drawing, composing. You have these different outlets to express yourself. Yeah. But then on the other side, metal, which is more about planning, structure. Yeah. It was something that you completely got off your plate. Like, that's a part I don't even want to touch. Yeah, it was not in my, my dictionary. Yeah. It was just because if you have a metal that's probably very strong in a way from the outside, Right.
school and maybe parents or, teachers, you kind of wanted to get rid of something that was obstructing your wood element, which is...
Yeah. I think from the person that I am, I mean, I had low energy at a certain point, but my main thing is a lot of energy, I think, and it needs a lot of space to explore and to create and to be present, right? And what I felt in my upbringing, I think, is that what happened is that I was sort of being locked up in a tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter space where, and I think that represents the metal element. Yeah. And I was totally rebelling against that.
Yeah.
Because it never felt good, right?
No. Instead of letting it work for you, it worked against you, and you kind of pushed it aside. Yeah. And
but that wasn't helping me, of course. No. Right? I mean, that's the thing, because metal element, of course, is a part of the deal of everything. Yeah. So you cannot. So it would sort of haunt me, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And which is so. This is all interesting. How you cannot go without one of the elements, and I see it with more people that sometimes they have a very strong feeling against one of the elements.
Right.
Because it represents so much.
Almost like an allergy, right?
No, I don't want to go there. But being in touch with all your elements, kind of, it needs to be there.
For sure.
Balance out. Metal is also, which is interesting, it's the energy of letting go. It's the autumn. It's sadness. So whenever I see someone who is so rebelling against one of the elements, it's like, okay, what's underneath there? What happened? Is there something still from what happened in your childhood, which is there?
Like traumas or things, and it's like this mirror. Right? You can use it as a mirror for the person. It's like, okay, you're sort of avoiding looking in it, but eventually you have to look into it to get beyond it, right? So these emotional aspects of of these elements are underneath.
And the funny thing is, this can be as much as that people really don't like the food in that element, and then you go into deeper, and then the emotions that are there are blocked, and so it goes really far, and it's all these little things that can come up to the surface that give you the attention, like, there is something off there.
Well, if you carry, if you have had things in your past, like we all have. It's like in the metal element, being sad. It's like I don't want to be sad, so you sort of start blocking all of that, right? Yeah. And but it will show up time and time again for you to work on these aspects in your life. Right?
And the beautiful thing is, your system is always trying to find balance. So what it will do is that it will knock on your door. Yeah. If you don't open the door, it will knock a little bit harder. If you don't open the door again, it will kind of come in with, I don't know how to call
like a sledgehammer or a ram. It's like,
and then...
medieval, right? Like, we're going to take the city.
Exactly. And so when will you start listening?
Yeah.
That's the question.
Yeah. And I started. I'm glad I started listening. Yeah. Right, and looking into these things step by step, and getting beyond these things. Yeah. It's still. Will I ever be really good at planning and things like that? I'm not really sure. No. I don't think every person is really born to be like an administrator or something like that, right? I'm not. So
and that's not the point.
It's more about rules. It's more about regulations, right? Yeah. It's more about rules. I mean, not rules like a law per se, although I'm a law-abiding citizen. But it's more about your own rules, what makes you happy, right? Your own boundaries. What are my boundaries for myself towards the outside world? Yeah. Also, I think a sort of discipline, more a healthy sort of discipline, because I had discipline, but I think discipline was also fed by a sort of maybe anger-driven, fear, whatever. You want to be good at something, or it's a fine line, right? It's a really fine line. So I think with the metal element, it's becoming so much more healthy to say, okay, I want a clean house. I want to make sure that everything is tidy in a way that's serving us. We don't want to have a lot of clutter in our lives. We want to be able to breathe in our lives so that it's supporting the lifestyle we want, right? And I think a lot of that is in the metal element, right?
And I think also because you see a lot of people struggle with either metal wood. And wood.
Yeah.
In different, it represents itself in different ways. But to have a nice balance there, that's the most important thing, that it can both be there in your life and that you don't fight against one or the other.
Well, fighting is exactly what it is, right? If you can recognize your own fighting. So when I went more and more into the martial arts as well, it's like who am I fighting? Oh, it's me I'm fighting. Okay, so let's explore that, right? Yeah. So it's getting rid of that sort of stagnation. If you can clear that, these patterns, if you can clear that out of your system step by step, what's left behind is a system that wants to balance itself out, right? Exactly. It's not. It's even beyond your. It's more about letting go than actually doing. Sometimes you have to do a hard stop in something, right? Like with earth element, when you go into your digestion and really observe like what's happening there. Yeah. And also with this, we need some boundaries. We need to work on that. But eventually you sort of start letting go a little bit more. And it's like, okay, how is this regulating itself? Yeah. And then you make smaller and smaller adjustments, right? Yeah. So, yeah.
And also, if you let go, if you're at a point where you've taken out some of the lifestyle stuff that are not healthy for you, are taking you completely out of balance, then creativity comes up, and you feel like I feel that I belong. I feel connected.
It's more like the water element, right? Yeah. It's like I feel connected. This is what I should be doing, because not should be in the sense of like, this really is what I'm here for, right? Yeah. This is instead of
that I feel that I belong, that I have a right to be here.
Yeah.
Because
you're here.
Yeah. So that's enough right to be here. And then if water is stable, if water has enough ground, then the fire element, which is actually, your existence. Why am I here on this earth? Yeah. What is my goal? Goal is maybe not the right.
No, but more purpose, I guess.
Purpose,
right?
Yeah. What is my purpose here? That's the fire element. But the fire can only come out when the other ones are a little bit in place.
Yeah, it needs wood. It needs something to burn, right? That if that's empty, right? Where's it gonna? You're gonna get drained, right? Yeah. So, absolutely. I think that's the wonder of this thing, is that you have this method to study everything and really, really see what's happening with yourself, and then you sort of feel like it's like a feeling of being now I'm really here, something like that. It's like I see the other stuff still a little bit on the horizon. That's the old stuff, the conditioning, whatever. But now I'm really, really here. Yeah. And now I have choice, and I have something to work with, and I can make better choices, etc., etc. Yeah. Wow.
So you started with your diet.
Yeah.
Your training, or first your training.
That was like
training
the
was the entry. Then you started your diet, and we both did a lot of courses, and
for sure,
we did so many stuff
inner child work. Well, of course, diet stuff. We went pretty deep with that.
Taking herbs.
Herbs, of course. You studied herbs, and then we you make your own herb formulas and everything, and we do that time and time again to make where are we now, and what's the next phase we're gonna do. Motivational things. Just listen to Tony Robbins for 15 minutes and you'll be like, So,
and the Chi skills is actually also that's really bringing part of you out in the world.
Absolutely, that's so much. That's fire element. Hermetic training. I mean, hermetic training is huge for this as well. It's all about understanding yourself, alchemy, how to transform energy, cultivating stillness. Because I think that's where it started, right? It was always so noisy. And now I know where this place is, where I can go, tune into this stillness and be present and
feel. All your senses get so much stronger as well.
Yeah, sometimes that's good, sometimes not. Especially with smells. But, I don't know what happened in the last few months or something. It's getting so strong now. I don't know.
But you see this improvement. You see that you're almost, or for me, you're almost in wonder of yourself. Like, what are we capable of?
I think that's what I just meant. I was like a little silent just now. It's like, for now I know I'm really here or whatever. Because it's sort of you sort of come up to the surface, right? Out of this mess, out of this noise. And then it's like, what am I capable of as a human being? The chances that you are here, right? Yeah. When you're talking about this, the right to exist, whatever, it's like, what was the odds that you are here? Right? Yeah. If you're looking at how many sperm cells getting to whatever, and that's but even on a spiritual level, right? Yeah. And then coming into your strength and expressing yourself the way I think is how it's supposed to be, right? It's being your higher purpose and inspiring people and helping people, with what we've learned, right?
Exactly.
So, wow.
Yeah, and So, if you look at this now, we go through this every now and then to see where we are. What do you feel like? What do you work on at the moment?
At the moment, it's still inner child work. So I think it's like peeling away the onion, the layers, right? It's that you get to newer layers, deeper layers of understanding, but it sort of gets more and more simplified as well. Yeah. So on one hand, I'm always looking at what are these layers and working through them, but on the other hand, I'm always cultivating stillness. Yeah. And they meet more and more, right? So there's on one hand, I'm so able now to observe my own contractions and emotions and blockages. On the other hand, there's this stillness around it and through it and underneath it, that there's so much more clarity and also distance, without touching things. And then starting this creative cycle again is like, and that's, I think, this will probably go on and on, I guess. But that's the thing. I went in very deep with the training and pretty wide, but I think it's getting more and more into the meditative part of things, where you let go, recognize, let go, recognize, let go, and other things is more, and that's maybe more a little bit of the metal element, where we boundaries. Yeah. Being more and more able to see, like, okay, here I have to set a boundary for this or a boundary for that. Maybe that's also a continuous thing, where you always also recognize, like, oh, I'm too open here, maybe, or I'm losing energy there, or So it's more a fine-tuning process now, now, than like large things.
You took away all those.
Yeah, because in the bottom line, how I feel now is like, it's awesome. Yeah. There's this skill I have over myself now that I was just, a couple of years ago I could only dream of. Yeah. So, and beautiful. What will happen in a couple of years, right? And that's the beauty of this, is like you and I also, right? I think that's one of the things I'm working on, is this how we merge together, not only as partners, but also as business partners, right? And so, it's a fine-tuning thing for sure.
Beautiful. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And yeah.
Well, I hope you learned something from this, right?
Yeah. Well, I did.
Very good. Yeah.
So if you like this, then like and subscribe.
And we'll be back.
Yeah.
For sure.
See you again. Okay. Bye.